we think of Greece, we think of gods, goddesses, and the Olympic Games. Originally held in Olympia, the religious center in ancient Greece, in the 8th century BC. The Panathenaic Stadium, which in modern Greek means stage of all the Athenians, is an ancient stadium in Athens, renovated for the first Olympic Games of the modern era in 1896. Its name in Greek is Kallimaramaro, which means beautiful marble. The Panathenaic Stadium has an elongated track, typical of an ancient stadium, with a length of about 200 meters, with a very tight corner. The stadium is located between two hills covered with pine trees in a shell between the district and the Mets Pangrati. The first games were also known as the Games of the First Olympiad. They were organized by the International Olympic Committee and held from the 6th to the 15th of April in 1896. At the time of the ancient Olympic Games, Pankration was a martial art where almost every technique, even the most deadly, were allowed. Before, only some techniques were forbidden, such as pulling at the eyes and biting. Great Olympic champions of the time made history, like Polydamas of Skotusa, who was an Olympic champion in 408 BC, or Milo of Croton. Pankration is a very complete discipline, as it allows both exchanges standing with boxing and on the ground for wrestling. The Museum of the Modern Olympic Games was built on the site of Olympia in 1961. Its founder is the Cretan Georgios Papastefanou Provatakis, art lover, philatelist, and sponsor of the Games. As a collector, Georgios brought together remarkable objects on the Olympics and sports in general. In 1964, this private museum became the property of the Greek Olympic Academy and has been modernized. It also has a fine collection of stamps and posters. The memory of the Olympic Games is written on the stones, where we can read the names of places where the Games have been hosted, as well as the names of different presidents of the Olympic Committee. Greece has an area of 131,957 squared kilometers for less than 10 million inhabitants. 1/5 of the country has more than 9,000 islands and islets, on which about 200 are inhabited. 80% of its territory is mountainous. Mount Olympus is the highest at 2,917 meters above sea level. The Agora of Athens was, in ancient times, the main square of the city, a place of life where trade, politics, culture, and economy thrived. This is definitely why Agora means assembly. It was also a sacred place. The construction of public buildings in the Agora lasted over 1,000 years. Until the 5th century, the Agora underwent several expansions. However, from the 6th century, its influence began to wane. Today, it is an important archaeological site located at the foot of the Acropolis. The Acropolis is a rocky plateau about 150 meters high, with a flat top of 300 meters from east to west and 85 meters north to south. It is only accessible by a steep slope on the west side. In ancient times, it was used as a vast sanctuary for the worship of the goddess Athena and many other gods of Greek mythology. Dominating the skyline of the Acropolis, the Parthenon is a famous temple of ancient treasures and certainly why the Acropolis is currently one of the world's most visited tourist sites. The Acropolis was subjected to several wars that damaged buildings, including one in 1687 by the Venetians, in which an explosion destroyed much of the Parthenon.
Pan is the first word, Kratos is the second one. Pan means the whole, everything. Kratos means the one that governs almost everything, the one that rules everything. That's why the ancient Greeks named the god of Zeus and humans, as Pankratis, the one who controls everything. So actually Pankration means the sport that can holds everything, and the one who's active with the sport. Pankratiast is the one that can control every athletic event by his own. Metaphorically means the strongest of all, but this is in metaphorical translation. It's not the exact etymology of the word. For example, Theagenis from the island of Thassos in the Kavala territory in Macedonia, he was a winner that he won 1,400 crowns. That means that almost every day he was competing. You cannot imagine an athlete like this living today in any kind, okay? I can tell you about Polydamas from Skotousa on Thessaly. He was almost the same famous, just like Theagenis. And the Persians heard about him, actually Darius heard about him, and he invited him to his court to present him to his people, but actually he has other things in back of his mind. So when Polydamas went to his court, Darius challenged him to stand against 3 of his immortal guards. And as you know, the immortal gods, as we know from Thermopylae and other stories, was actually famous in that time. They were carrying a complete armor. Okay, they have a spear, they have a shield, they have a sword and everything. So Polydamas found himself against 3 people totally armed. And he has to find a way to not only to defend himself, but to prove to Darius that he actually was one of the best of his times. So what we know from Philostratus, an ancient writer from the 2nd AD period, is that he killed all of them, the 3 of the immortal gods of Darius. Now, this is very easy to say it as a simple story, but you know, it's another story behind of it. Polydamas actually was naked. So he went there to defend against 3 totally armed men. He was covered with olive oil, and he probably knew a way to defend against arms, the spear, the shield, and the sword, and everything. That means that by that time, the Pancratiasts used Pancration as they fight against the Persians, against one city to another, but it means also that they learn the ways to defend themselves against armed enemies. And this is most important. That's why actually we have an event named Polydamas for his name and for his glory. Of course, there are many good examples to take it and teach to the people. I can remember another one, for example, Arachion or Arichion. We have 2 actually words for with the same name. He was 2 times Olympic winner. Now it was his time to compete once again for the 3rd time. But 3rd time participation in Asian Olympic Games, it is a very exhausting thing. So he didn't actually have the strength to stand against his opponent. And unfortunately, his opponent went on his back and was trying to choke him with a strike, what he called it klimakizin. That means that he was having his legs around his waist and he was choking. So this is the klimakizin wrestling move. Now, as he was losing his conscience, he fell on the ground, took one of his legs of his opponent and twisted. So the opponent felt very painful, and he declared apagorevsis. But at the same time, Arachion was dead already because he choked. Yeah. So the Hellenic is coming. They're seeing the couple. He's seen the opponent of Arachion that he forbids, but Arachion is dead. Now, who is the winner? The winner is the dead one. Unfortunately for him, he didn't have the chance to see himself for the 3rd time as an Olympic winner. This is happening all in ancient Greece. I think these are main stories that young people today have to know about the courage, the strength, and the stamina that they have to present when you are involved with Pancration. But actually, this is what I told you before, is the cultural level and the cultural, behind all these things, and separates Pancration from all other styles that are existing.
Athens is the capital of Greece and its main city. It is considered the cradle of democracy of the Western civilization. In Athens, democracy and philosophy were born. Thus, the Athenian civilization is one of the foundations of European culture, and it is because of this the historian Thucydides is cited in the draft of the European Constitution preamble. It was also the cultural center of classical Greece, and in all areas. Its taste for beautiful design and goodness influenced the rest of the Greek world, Roman, and the West. Hydra is a Greek island in the Sarconic Gulf south of Athens, and it is a car-free island. It was one of the great naval powers of the Mediterranean Sea in the modern era. Its owners and ships played an important role during the Greek War of Independence. Hydra has long been on the edges of the great movements of history, from antiquity to the Middle Ages. Despite being the name water of the Aeolian Islands, Hydra or Hydrea, meaning the drunken, water always seems to have been missing. The name would have been quite ironic. In the 19th century, at the height of its power, the Hydriot Navy had 125 ships and more than 10,000 sailors. Several churches and chapels are scattered over the island and contribute to the beauty of Hydra. Sumptuous and imposing monasteries with hanging rocks are accessible after a donkey ride. The first school of the merchant marine Hydra was founded around 1645 and was truly the first Hydriot ship launched in 1657. Hydra is a mountain range of 20 kilometers long and 2 to 3.5 kilometers wide. Its highest point, Mount Eros or Vigla, rises to 593 meters. Apart from 3 coves, the coast of the island is rocky and inhospitable. The sport is different from other sports because we can combine the 2 types of ground fighting and standing. Keep children are excited because they can just use your hands and feet throughout the body. The 2 competitions are composed of 3 parts. The first part is a technical demonstration. Athletes are grouped by school, showing and highlighting the skills they have mastered. For the second part, there is fighting between athletes from different schools, and they must score points or win by submitting to their opponent or committing a fault. And finally, the third part is a group exercise called Polydamas, in memory of the wrestler whom the antiquities soldiers called Darius the Persian. Pankration is a national sport which speaks directly to children because it is a Greek sport. Parents also insist their children practice this sport because it represents their country. Why they do not make a Greek overcharged sport to practice another martial art. In this area, the region was also very isolated and we were very afraid. My father advised me to learn a combat sport so I would not be afraid and move freely.
Τα σχολεία ήταν πάρα πολύ μακριά και έτσι ξεκινήσαμε. Το 96 που αποφασίσαμε να...
Different clubs were too far and that's how we decided to install a club here. Our city loves our sports and our federation, and myself and parents support us enormously.
Πολύ καλούς γονείς, parents, για συμπαράσταση. Έτσι είμαστε όλοι θερμοί μπροστά στο άθλημα αυτό.
Come and see our country and the most dynamic Greek martial art, the one who can give you a strong body with a beautiful carrure in a holy spirit. You will learn at this occasion our hospital, but mostly you feel the pride to practice a Greek sport. accessories that include the holding of pankration are blue or white gloves with open fingers for free fighting, mouth guards, shell, shin guards, and feet. There is also the endema, formal attire of WGPC, World Grappling and Pankration Committee, composed of chitonian, paraskelis, the jacket, and the pants. It is possible to see an outfit of G type as a judo kimono or shorts and a sash guard, always the dominant colors of blue or white. Unlike other martial arts, in the Greek mentality, the Greeks do not bow, but only salute. When greeting, the pankratist is standing saluting with the right arm to the right temple. The greeting is from one person, then to the others. The coach welcomes his students, and this reciprocity in social relationships between coach and student marks a fundamental difference with other combat sports and martial arts, where subordination is the rule of the relationship in the sport. The Greek Orthodox Church is formed by several autocephalous churches as part of the larger whole of the Orthodox Church. What they have in common is the use of the Greek Gospels as a liturgical language, mainly composed of national Greek clergy and a set of traditions, as opposed to the Russian Orthodox Church, Serbian, Romanian, Bulgarian, Georgian, and many others which may have slightly different liturgical traditions.
Πίσω, πάμε. Πας. Χέρια με στο λαβί. Στηρίξε αυτιά προς πίσω. Πας. Πας. Κατένας άδειες.
Αφιένος περιαγωγές.
Άθαλο, πας. Να γονατάκι ρίξει ελιόν. Μάμου. Άρη.
After that, we have a lot of activities, and of course we have the Olympic Games, okay, from the 8th century BC, which we have the participation of the pankration for men, and on the 2nd century BC, pankration for children. Of course, there are several other issues and scripts that convince us that pankration has a long history from that time of the Argonauts until the end of the Olympic Games, which is about the 7th century AD. It's almost 1400 years of age. My research actually point to that direction, to find all the elements that I could use to give it once again as a renewed sport to the modern Olympic society, to the modern Olympic family. Well, kinesiology, there are no differences. The human body is showing two moves, only expanding and contracting the muscles. Normally there is no differences. What we see as a difference today is that, for example, our athletes are wearing an emblema, a uniform, which is actually common to the society today. You can understand we cannot have nude tournaments or nude championships, not because they are not good, but because our society are not accepting something like that. So the difference is that, and the second one, I can see only two, is that probably hitting or wrestling to one another is not so hard as it was in ancient Greece. Of course, in ancient Greece it was a hard sport because they has a reason for it. The winners, next time probably we will fight the Persians, so they had the reasons to be tough. The sport should be hard, and actually they have to be good pancratias to stand against the opponent. Okay, today there's no need to do something like that. We have to check it from the athletic, the agonistic point of view. So from my point of view, these are the main differences we see from what we have as a renewed sport and from the ancient origins. Well, I cannot speak for all the Greek generation, but I can speak for the athletes that I have in my gym. Okay, of course they like it, and they like it because it's coming from their ancestors. As you may probably have seen, the terminology of the sport is in ancient Greek. It's in our native language. As the Japanese are learning karate and they have to know the Japanese language, as in Taekwondo you have to know the Korean language, etc. So in pancration you have to know the Greek language, and especially the ancient Greek language. And this is the good part for Greeks. But I believe that this is good also for the foreigners. There are many countries and many foreign athletes that actually like that point, that, how can I say, that thing that presents a new idea about the ancient connection we have with the Greek Olympic spirit and the modern society. A lot of countries accept that, and it's probably very strange to a lot of people. Strangers, I would say, learn more easily ancient Greeks than the modern Greeks do. I don't want to be heard just like racist or nationalistic or anything. This is the historical research that's speaking through my mouth, okay? This is the documentation that speaks. I strongly believe after 20 years of research that all the martial arts are derived, are coming from ancient Greece and pancration sport. So everybody who is involved with that, especially with the Asian martial arts that have a long history back, I don't mean the modern ones, okay? They actually practice in a part of ancient pancration. So I would like to give them ways to study, try to search and find all the elements. So when they go back to the roots with the origins of the martial arts in Greece, they will find actually their own origins, the origins of themselves. And probably, if I have the chance to invite somebody or to anybody who wants to be here as a guest, I will be very happy to present the same documents and give them the same elements of training that I gave to you. Activities in that sport. For example, all the Asian martial arts, you have to bow, you have to be on the ground, you have to bend your knees and salute and all these things, which actually have the Buddhistic, religious things included. We don't have that in pancration. And actually, if you take a good look, this is coming from ancient Greece. And actually, ancient Greeks and ancient Greece didn't keep nothing for itself. It gave anything to the humanity. That's why we see today we've reached the moon and probably go to Mars, because all this is coming from thousands of years ago and originated from Greece. The differences, if you exclude the way we dress, and if you exclude the language, what it remains is the cultural situation I'm talking to you before. This is the main acceptance. I believe it's inside pancration and what is I'm trying to give to the modern athletic society. After all, what I have seen in the last 20 years is that the war is not about who is better than the one, which sport is better than the one, but it's in a cultural level, okay? And for me, this is the most important thing. Probably we would not succeed 100% on that, but we have a long way in front of us, and I think we can make it. Θέλω στο αρπαστό να παίξετε αρπαστό.
Άσε, κυρία. Έλα.
Παλέψτε. Τα χέρια τραβάμε, τα χέρια τραβάμε. Προχές.
Έλα.
Προχές να πέφτουν.
Άντε, ρε.
Σου είναι βαρύς. Έτσι, δύο γύρους, αυτό είναι.
Αν κάνουμε προπόνηση κάθε φορά, έτσι, είναι δύο δουλειές. Όχι παραπάνω, γιατί δεν...
For a long time, the Greeks did not travel in their own country. But since they have caught up, because this country offers amazing historical and cultural wealth, it was a pity to see that tourists benefited far more than even the Greeks themselves for the beauty of their country. The Pankration is a sport that comes from the past and tends its arm to the future. At the dawn of the 21st century, Pankration looks like the future combat discipline. Brought up to date and adopting today's society rules, it now enables its practitioners to fully express themselves while maintaining their safety and physical integrity. Pankration sends us back to the origins of our disciplines, among the oldest in the world, portraying all the noble values, chivalry, human values, and the Olympics.